My name is Angelo Clayton. I'm the General Manager in IT at Woolworths in Australia. And I have two portfolios there. I look after our store application landscape across the fleet of our stores. I'll tell you a bit about that. And then secondly, I look after our information management capability. So our analytics and our data capability across the group. And the story I guess I'd like to share with you a little bit today is really the journey that we've gone on as an organization with Google to really drive our analytics capability within the organization. So just before I guess I get into the story, just to tell you a little bit about Woolies and who we are as an organization. So we're affectionately known as Woolies by our customers in both Australia and in New Zealand. We're probably one of the largest retailers there, and we've really been recognized for some of our large brands. We have our Woolworths supermarket business. We have our Big W general merchandise business. We provide some beer, wine, and spirits to the Australia and New Zealand market in our BWS business. And we have another liquor business called Dan Murphy's. Essentially, we serve approximately 29 million customers a week. I look at some of the HSBC stats, and I think we dwarf in comparison to some of your numbers. But essentially, we have about 200,000 staff members, again, spread across Australia and New Zealand. We really, as an organization, are about putting our customers first, really working together as a single team across our group, and then really, starting to make a difference in our community, both in the local community and I guess the broader community. So, really an awesome organization within the core fabric of Australia and New Zealand. And really about a year ago, we started to talk about this thing called data and big data and what it could mean to us as an organization. And I guess as we started to go down that path, we started to realize that data as an asset is something that we can go and unlock and start to drive an analytics kind of mindset throughout our business. And really, it started with a Saturday afternoon session with some of the senior leaders in our business going, what's our data ambition, and what are some of the things we think we can achieve with this data asset? And I guess really as we started to unlock that strategy and start to put down some of the capabilities we really wanted to go after, I think we quickly realized as an IT organization that we don't have the right platforms in place to be able to support that ambition. And so really, as we sat down, we started to articulate what are some of those critical capabilities that we need to put in place to be able to unlock that business or group data strategy. And really one, it was about starting to put down the capability around trusted, reliable data that's really easily accessible. So one of the first things, I guess, the business team said to me as I joined the business was, Angelo, we've got all of this data. I just cannot get my hands on it. And part of that challenge was the fact that the data literally sat in so many different places within the organization. Each business unit built its siloed data warehouse. And it was really just impossible to be able to bring all of that data together in a trusted and in a reliable fashion. So that was kind of the first principle we needed to go after. Second was, how do we future-proof this technology stack, knowing how the data landscape is shifting so quickly with all the different technologies that's available? How do we make sure that in 3 or 5 years' time, we're on a stack that really can still service the needs of the business? Thirdly, from our CFO, making sure that the platform was cost-effective. And again, because we had so much duplication in the organization, how did we go about making sure that we could drive an efficient cost model for the entire group? Fourthly was, enabling the self-service capability. How do we make sure that once we put the data in the hands of our teams, that they really are able to go after the analytics themselves without having to come back to IT every single time they want to be able to unlock, new insights? And then lastly, like everyone else, making sure our data is secure. We have, close to 9 or 10 million customers. It is imperative that our data needs to be in a place that's secure and only we can get our hands on. And so really, that was really the stage where we said, who should we be engaging in this market to be able to go after this capability? And I guess there was no other name that came to us but Google. Google, I guess, manages the largest data set probably on the planet. And it just made sense for us to start to engage with them. And certainly in those initial engagements, GCP obviously came up multiple times. And I think, as a platform, we were quite comfortable with GCP. I guess we were probably a little bit more circumspect about BigQuery as a capability in the GCP stack. And I guess because it's been maturing over the last few years, we put a bit of a challenge to Google and said to them, take some of our data and see how quickly you can process it. We gave them 80 billion rows of data. They loaded it on the platform, and typically on our on-prem platform, the queries we run against that data set takes probably anything between 45 minutes to an hour and a half. They ran the queries on their platform. It came back in, I think it was 2.3 seconds to be precise. And I think that was the start of the journey where we set up and said, I think there's a capability that could support our business's ambitions. But I guess as we started to engage with them and really started to understand that this was a platform we could go after, we kind of knew that there were a few more pieces of the puzzle that we needed to put in place. And when you're dealing with a retailer, you've got to keep things simple. So this was as simple a picture I could create to be able to get the CEO and the CFO on board. But really, very simplistically going, how do we make sure we take all of the data sources across our enterprise, bring that into a single place or instance, our data lake essentially, and then taking that single repository and moving that data up into the GCP platform. Again, at the beginning stages of having this discussion, we were really worried about the fact that this would probably take us 3 or 4 years to be able to really do as an organization. Multiple data sources, tons of integration we'd need to build. We'd have to go and do the visualization capability on top of that into the Google Cloud platform. We just really thought this would be a long journey. And again, started to sit down with the PS teams in Australia from Google and our partner TCS to start to work out how we could do this and how quickly we could leverage it. And essentially, these were the components we needed to land: the enterprise data lake, the integration into the GCP cloud, and then the ability to be able to put the visualization component of Tableau on top of that. And again, we really managed to start the process around the Hadoop piece pretty quickly. And as we engaged with Google, laid another challenge to them. Well, certainly the CIO came to me last year, July, and said, Angelo, I want this entire platform up and running by the end of the year. I said, would you like my resignation now? But essentially, we started that journey in June with the first of our proof of concepts. And I guess, again, to make sure that we were future-proofing the platform, we didn't just want a platform that could compute. I think we all know that GCP has the ability to scale and compute. I think that was a no-brainer. It was really about the value add that the platform would bring over time to us. And so not only did we do the compute piece, we also did a lot of work around ML and some use cases around natural language processing. And again, as we threw the data at the platform, it literally just came back in sub-second on all the use cases we went after. And so really, once we saw those use cases working, we went back to Google again and said, guys, we got to move even faster. And so in July, we commenced the build of the platform, again, working quite iteratively with them through a DevOps and Agile model. And really, by the end of September, we were live on the GCP platform. And again, full integration, all of the security standards met. We had our CISO, who, my word, is probably the scariest guy on the planet, sign off on the platform, sign off on the security. And so, again, great collaboration with Google on just, them working with us to be able to meet our security standards. But while that was great and the platform was up and running, we needed to put the enterprise visualization tool on top of that, and we did that by October. But then we actually needed to get data into the platform. And literally, by the end of November, we had put our core retail data set onto the platform, 2 years worth of history moved onto there, literally ready for the business to be able to consume and work with. It has been a phenomenal effort by ourselves, the Google team, as well as TCS, our partner. projects like this take you 2 to 3 years to be able to land. And for us to be able to do this in the space of 4 or 5 months was just an amazing, amazing effort. Where to next for us? So now that we've got a bulk of the data on the platform, it is about putting the rest of the data onto the platform, some of our customer data, and some of the other pieces across our value chain that we want to move into the platform. And these are some of the use cases we know that we can go and unlock over the coming months. How do we do price and promotions far more targeted to our customers? How do we drive localization around our range? Again, through the insights of the data that we've got. How do we start to really do optimization? And we're talking to Google about this at the moment. How do we optimize our entire value chain, again, now that we've got the data set on the platform? So we are super excited about the capability that we can unlock over the coming months now that we have this platform in place. So I think just lastly, I want to say again, thank you to the Google team. It's been a phenomenal journey so far, and we look forward to the following 12 months with you. Thank you.